Hi, everyone. Justin Martinez here. Um, Thanks for taking the time to listen to my presentation today. Um, I'm an MBA student. Just to introduce myself, I'm an MBA student. I've been in the program since I graduated from my undergraduate program here at Anderson in 2019 and started my MBA program the fall directly following that. I've been in the program since. I started at a pretty quick pace and then sort of slowed down as my professional life has kind of ramped up. And so I'm taking one class a semester, and it's been really nice, really diving into some of the topics in this program. Professionally, I'm an HR manager at the Hispano Chamber of Commerce here in Albuquerque. And that obviously it leads a lot into why I chose the topic that I did for this presentation. The topic obviously is leadership, a practice, not a title, how organizations can invest in leaders today to ensure success tomorrow. Really, the reason I chose this topic, a number of reasons, but I really love the topic of leadership, so to speak, and the theory behind it, and kind of the practices that go into it. And so, what really sparked that was taking a class with our professor Chris Wynn, who teaches a leadership course. And if you have the opportunity, I think that'd be a great course for anybody to take. But talks a lot about the theory of leadership and how to align yourself with your your leadership approach, so on and so forth. And so, in addition to that, it kind of really aligns with my current work, and so that's a big reason why I chose the topic. So we'll go ahead and get right into it. So just to outline the presentation today, I'm obviously going to be going over again, kind of an intro, and then talk a little bit about the issue summary. I'll actually read the issue summary word for word, and then I'll shift it into the background, and what that is I'll talk a little bit about what the actual issue is, what are some of those, the issue being the Great Resignation, or lots of folks resigning. What are some of the traditional approaches to that issue, and then what are some of the more long-term solutions that I see in my mind. Then we'll dive into the analysis portion of the presentation, where I'll talk a little bit about leadership, how it affects organizations, why some people believe that we should encourage leadership at all levels, and then how we as leaders can learn to be a better leader, and how we can actually learn to become leaders if we're not leaders. And so finally, I'll talk a little bit about the intended and versus unintended consequences, a little bit about the relation to our book, obviously, and then conclude our presentation with some final thoughts. Overall, the general idea is that there is a really tough issue related to resignation going on, and by investing in leaders within our organizations, whether they technically be leaders or not, we can help to curb that issue. So again, just to kind of reiterate, leadership is a topic that's near and dear to me. I really believe wholeheartedly in the fact that good, positive leadership can truly make a difference for any organization, regardless of whether it's a nonprofit, whether it's a Fortune 500 company, or anything in between. I think you all probably know as well as I do, a good leader can make or break an organization, a department, you name it, and a bad leader can do the same thing. And so just to kind of go over the issue summary again, I'll read it word for word here. As the world continues to shift following the pandemic, organizations are increasingly feeling the effects of high turnover, decreased job satisfaction, and low employee morale. Strong, courageous, and innovative leadership within organizations can prove to be the key to curb these circumstances. Furthermore, as leaders, we can assist in cultivating and developing internal leaders to advance our organizations. So just to get into it right away, talking a little bit about the background and where the sort of issue lies. Again, the Great Resignation, or lots of people resigning from their roles to seek other opportunities. It's likely something that you've dealt with in your organization. I know for a fact it's something that I've dealt with in my organization. And really, this was kind of brought on. I don't know if it was an occurrence before or after the pandemic. I think it was sometime after the pandemic. Organizations throughout the United States, regardless of industry, regardless of size, started to see an unprecedented disturbance in the fluctuation within the labor market, and really people leaving jobs for different jobs. Lots of times they were better jobs. Other times they were just roles that were outside of that industry that they felt were a better fit for them. In looking into it a little bit more, a Pew Research study that was done pretty recently found that the majority of workers who quit their job in 2021 said that some of their reasons for leaving included no opportunities for advancement, as well as a lack of respect or disrespect in the workplace. And so, a lot of that stems from, just to touch on the percentages, 63% felt that there was no opportunities for advancement, and 57% felt that there was a lack of respect for their work in the workplace. And so, looking a little bit at some of the approaches that organizations are taking to sort of curb this great resignation, some of them are a bit traditional. And organizations are looking to answer the problem very directly, right? And so organizations have done things like increasing employee compensation, paying them more, providing remote work options and flexible work options, flexible scheduling, that is, providing bonuses, other monetary incentives, and increased benefits like health, retirement, et cetera. And then these are very likely working very well for a number of organizations. These are sort of the part of the core of the issue that organizations are facing when employees are leaving. But I don't believe, in my opinion, that it is answering the long-term or sort of the more sustainable. It's not a more sustainable outcome for a lot of organizations for a number of reasons. One, it costs a lot of money to do those things that I mentioned. But two, I don't believe that it's really getting to the core of the problem that is, again, going back to what that research found, again, no opportunities for advancement, lack of respect, just to name a couple. And so what I did in finding some of the long-term solutions, thinking about how organizations are attacking this problem in the long term in a more sustainable way. Organizations are seeking to respond to the core reasons why people are leaving by providing them opportunities for advancement and respecting their employees through investing in them. And so while it might not be a easier approach, it's probably a more difficult approach to do so. It can definitely be a less expensive and more sustainable approach over time. By developing leaders, regardless of their title, in our organizations, we can seek to positively improve the culture of our organization, while at the same time investing in the employees and their individual development. And I'll talk a little bit more about why that's important here in the next slide. So just to touch on leadership as a whole, obviously this is a concept that we just went over in our readings, but the effectiveness of high-level management really trickles down to affect the performance of everyone below them, positively or negatively. And again, I think we've all worked for really good managers or really good leaders, and it really affects your team positively. And then the flip side of that is that the negative leaders or bad leaders can really affect your team in a negative way. And really, I think we're all in agreement that sort of gone are the old days, so to speak, of command and conquer type leaders. Today's leaders are not only required to be agile and effective in the decisions and the way that they're approaching business, but also they're called on to be empathetic and helping their employees to develop. That is to say that they're called on to make more than just decisions that are affecting the bottom line. Today, leaders are expected to do more to support those around them, provide them with opportunities for advancement, development, and really, in my opinion, they should be looking to develop internal leaders within their organization that may not traditionally have a leadership title or position within an organization. And so leaders at all levels, looking at that, talking a little bit about leaders at all levels, there is a very dire need for leaders at all levels. It's one of the 12 critical issues identified in the Global Human Capital Trends Survey published by Deloitte University. And really, the idea of leaders at all levels, to me, means that not only are your titled leaders, but also those individuals within teams that are performing sort of micro leadership roles. There's a need for those types of people. And so that begs the question, can people become better leaders? Can people become leaders at all? Can somebody learn to become a better leader? I'll start with current leaders and their ability to become a better leader. There are some clearer approaches based on a recent article in the Harvard Business Review, Anyone Can Learn to Be a Better Leader by Monique Valcourt. This is actually the article that I'm adding as my article for this presentation, because it really sparked my interest in diving into, what are the issues, how can we use leadership as a tool to combat some of those issues. And so in this article, she provided a lot of insight into how leaders can foster their own leadership development, things like being clear on their motivation and their purpose, seeking quality information to base their approach on, identifying measures of success, remaining intentional about your actions, choosing the right behaviors to display, seeking feedback, celebrating progress. Very clear things that we've all sort of learned in class already, or at least have learned maybe on some level already. And she then goes on to talk a little bit about how really the idea of leadership, or the theory of leadership, can be learned by most. And so if that's the case, that leaders can become better leaders, the question still remains, can anyone learn to become a leader? And that, I believe the answer to that is yes. And, as we've learned throughout this course, many of the leading and essential skill sets for leaders remains under the umbrella that is emotional intelligence. And so many argue that leadership can absolutely be learned. There are certain steps or methods that you can take to learn leadership. Camille Broward, an author at My HR Toolkit, offered up 5 simple, kind of effective ways that organizations can develop employee leadership. She detailed things like identifying what type of leadership skills are important, encouraging responsibility, independent thinking, having clear opportunities for growth, providing leadership training, and providing opportunities for mentorship as ways that organizations can help individuals become leaders, sort of the leaders of tomorrow, so to speak. And so they can actively engage their employees in becoming more self-reliant, more productive, more invested in the success of the business or organization, and in turn being less likely to look for employment elsewhere. Employers may just be able to do sort of a kill 2 birds with 1 stone kind of thing if they're able to cultivate leaders within their organizations properly. Oftentimes when we invest in our employees, they invest right back in the organization, if not at the same rate, if not more. And so it can be really effective for organizations to invest in their employees to become leaders. And while this may prove to be really effective on that front, there are some obviously unintended consequences. I've talked a lot about the intended consequences, but there's some unintended consequences that we need to ensure that employees have equitable access to growth opportunities, or to opportunities to learn how to become a better leader, or learn to become a leader at all. As we know, workforces are increasingly diverse. It's likely that some of our best leaders are some of those quiet folks that do their job, they do it really well. They help those around them in times of need, and they show that they are leaders in ways that are sort of less loud than others. And so organizations also need to be cautious of that, and making sure that they provide leadership and development opportunities for individuals who are outspoken about their leadership goals, as well as those who are maybe less direct about their goals of developing as a leader. Taking a look at the last slide here, talking a little bit about the relation and the conclusion. The concept of investing in internal leadership to curb turnover relies heavily on a number of theories that we've already covered in the course, particularly in the leadership chapter that we just read through. For example, the entire premise of this brief, that leadership is a practice rather than a title, is based on the behavioral theories of leadership that is presented in our book. Understanding that certain and specific behaviors differentiate leaders from non-leaders is key to really understanding that individuals can learn to become better leaders, and non-leaders can learn to become leaders through the development of these leadership traits. Furthermore, as a leader, when we invest in those around us and help them grow and develop, or as organizations, when we do that, we're taking action within the definition that is servant leadership and helping boost those around us up. And then lastly, many of the thoughts that are mentioned by Camille Broward are directly discussed in our course reading materials, such as development and trust, increasing positive culture, and then also offering opportunities for mentorship. And so as organizations kind of continue to combat the spread of rampant resignation, They can look to implement plans and processes to help develop, nurture, and grow their internal talent. And in doing so, they may not only commit themselves to their employees, but they also commit themselves to their employees' future. And by investing in their leadership, they can effectively work toward ensuring that employees are respected, and ensuring that when they're given the opportunity to advance, they're ready to do so. So with that being said, I appreciate you listening, and I hope to have some great discussion. Thanks so much.